And I don't care what anyone says. To me, if you bring in good, like the high end hockey players, the program itself doesn't really matter, like to a certain degree.
So do you think that those kind of points you're talking about, or anything in that area, do you think that accounts for most of the gap? So for example, you go to Toronto and you have the U10, U11 every year. All the best teams are from Toronto. All the best teams are from that one part of Michigan. It's like they're all the same
Yeah.
always.
And if you look at it, so you said Toronto, you said
Yep.
Michigan, so you say mostly Detroit's a great league.
And that, yeah,
Toronto's
Detroit.
a great league, but also start looking at the youth hockey in Chicago. If you would have looked at when I played, there was a really good team, Illinois, but now the population of people, you got the sprinkle effect of NHL guys for decades that now have their kids that
In
they
those
moved to
systems,
Chicago,
right?
and all of a sudden they've got population. You got kids that are interested. The Wayne Gretzky effect in California was huge. People got interested in hockey, so you start looking at the U.S. really developing players. And I don't know if I call it development. I just think people got interested, and they're putting arenas up. Now there's more players, so now you're seeing different pockets of places all over the U.S. where you would have never thought there was going to be hockey. I mean, Austin Matthews is from Arizona. That doesn't make sense. But there's actually a few guys from Arizona, a few guys Texas and stuff where that would have never happened. So my demographic thing, I think, is part of the play.
Right. So my question was
Yeah.
going to be: do you think it's mostly that stuff, or do you think that? So right now I'm more comparing like now, like let's say AAA center to AAA center, or AA center to AA center. I'm
Yeah.
not really comparing AA to AAA
Yep.
for
Okay.
in this particular moment.
Okay.
Do you think that the gaps between centers then would be more the demographic argument versus like is the coaching just better? Or is it better because of the demographics?
Okay. Here's the answer to that
Yeah.
question. Give me the best players, I'll be the best coach, most likely.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So why can you take 5 teams from Toronto or let's just say this. We have every year the OHL Cup. That's a tournament that's put on for 16-year-olds or 15-year-olds that are draft eligible. You have to qualify for it. Well, why is it pretty much every year a Toronto team wins? Why is it that if the top U.S. teams are always from one spot, you don't get a team from um, uh, Colorado that wins the Nationals? Maybe they have, but not very often. Demographics. There's more kids that play hockey in Toronto. I mean, there's 4 million. So if you say, right, if you say the North Bay Trappers are playing the Toronto Marlies, you already know the score or you know the outcome. 99.9% of the time, it'd be like that's what it is. It's demographics. So it's if you simply put, if you have a AAA team and you have 80 people trying out or 160 people trying out, as opposed to North Bay who has 17 or 16, 99.9, I would say 100% of the time, Toronto just has the advantage there. Obviously, or no?
Yeah, I would agree. So
yeah, so
because
that's
then
AAA to AAA. That's the gap.
right.
That's the gap.
Right. Okay. So then, do you think that if we kind of talk about more like because you get the odd like solid reputation program from a smaller area, right? Or like with some of these academy schools coming up, like some of these academies, like that St. Andrew's school for the older kids. Kids go there, and that's like a hub school where like they get a lot of people around that area. I don't even know where St. Andrews is. Is it Toronto?
Yeah, North Toronto. I think
Is
it's
it?
in Aurora or
So that would still be
just
Toronto.
North Toronto.
So that would still be Toronto
Yeah.
then. So that isn't really a good example. But anyways, some schools or some smaller market areas are a little bit known for like being a little bit of a like development hub. Even if it's like sometimes inconsistent, like they'll have a good year, then an off year, then a couple good years, then an off year. So it's maybe not as consistent as a a big demographic city. But what do you think about kind of creating those little development hubs? Like, so for example, in Windsor, like we're a smaller market center. So what would it take if we look at the AAA level, if we look at the AA level, both at the AA level, when we go and play other AA centers, like we get smashed. At the AAA level, when we go play other AAA centers, we usually don't do great. We do okay. We're one of those places where like you'll get the odd really good Windsor AAA team, you'll get the odd good Sun County team, but for the most part, we're like mid to low end of the pack. for the most part. So what are the kind of key changes then, in your opinion, if we stick on like the AAA to AAA difference? What are some of like the key things that you would need to turn a smaller center into a more impactful like development hub for players? Like what do you need? Is it money? Is it just money will solve that because you can afford to bring in the best people and improve the quality, or is it something else? Or do you think it's just not, you can't catch up? It's too hard.
Um, no, like okay, maybe I'm answering this wrong, but there's different ways we can
Yeah, yeah.
talk for a while.
Yeah, for sure. There's no rush.
Okay, you use St. Andrews for an example. Okay, how come they can have a good team and it's not maybe in a big center? Well, because they can find people to bring them there, and I don't care what anyone says. To me, if you bring in good, like the high end hockey players, the program itself doesn't really matter, like to a certain degree. So like that's why I get I giggle sometimes. Giggle's quite the
Giggle,
word,
eh?
isn't it?
Wow.
No, but I laugh sometimes because like the super teams and stuff, and the coaches that think they're making the difference, or it's the program. Look, they're on the ice 4 times a week. They're getting this, that, and the other thing. That's what makes it good. It's like it could make it excellent. Like it can make it a really cool program for good players and a good atmosphere. But the reality is you have the ability to pick the players that you want. Not here's what you get to pick from, right? So that to me that always will make the difference.
So do you think it's possible to have a program that can turn players that would otherwise be mediocre into those top tier players? Like, in your opinion, do you think it's possible to just assemble such a good place, like with the right people, with the right stuff, with the right structure, where it's like we make players that would otherwise be mediocre be those, turn into those
Oh,
top level
for sure you
players?
can do things, but at the end, like not but. Of course you can do that, but not but. Connor McDavid is Connor McDavid. It doesn't matter where he played hockey. You know what I mean? Um, so that's you got to eliminate that. I really believe that a good program can make a better hockey player for sure, or get them up to their potential. Yes, I do believe that.